Greetings, everybody. This is Winnie Wriggle, and welcome back to All the Mods 9 To the Sky. Today, it's going to be a little bit chaotic. We're going to do a little more freestyle than we have in the past. So I want to show off some show and tell. Last time we were together, we did all of this craziness on the left. And that is, we set up auto sieving for our gravel, sand, and dust. And all of those resources get squeezed, processed, ground, and then smelted back into ingots, and those go into our storage system via a storage controller drawer. I had to insert one step into this process because our basic enriching factory requires that you have 3 of the raw ores in order to process. We were getting things backed up in the squeezer, so I added another iron barrel with another compacting upgrade. So now the raw ores wait in here until there are enough to make an entire ore block, and then they send that block to the enriching factory, and it has no problem grinding it down into the dust and then sending it on to be smelted and put in storage. Now, the thing that I did while you were sleeping was create the same setup that we used for the gravel for our netherite, blackstone, and deep slate. They're very similar. We have the netherrack going into a hammer. The hammer feeds into a diamond mesh, and the resources that come out of there get sorted in various ways. So all of the items that these 3 resources produce are also being sent to our storage drawer and are stored over here, one of the most important being ancient debris. So now we have access to netherite, which is very exciting. And we have a very good supply of blaze powder, the zirconium gems, and the stuff for Ender IO, along with a few extra bits and bobs. So automating our resources means that we're in good shape for resources, but this is still a little bit of a slow production. And one of the things holding us back is our power. Our lovely windmill from Create has done a great job producing RF for us. We're producing 180 forge energy per tick, but that is a drop in the bucket in terms of the power we will actually need going forward. So to solve that problem, I thought we might move up to the next step in a logical progression of power and do lava power. So we're going to take advantage of the fact that we basically have free cobble gen and free lava production, only we're going to multiply our current production setup by 3, and we're going to take all that lava and put it in the magmator from the Powah mod. This will generate 24 energy per tick for a starter tier, but 80 for the basic, and if we get really adventurous, the hardened version will generate 200 forge energy per tick per magmator. First, let's set up our lava production and get that underway, and then we'll come back and set up the magmators to actually generate power. So we'll throw down our superheating elements. We'll stick our porcelain crucibles on top. We'll set up our cobble gen, which I'm actually going to tuck back here, stick a drawer on, and then pipe to all 3 of these crucibles. If we take our wrench and shift right click, it should begin filling up our crucibles with cobblestone, which will begin generating lava. Now let's pull all that lava out of there and put it in a tank so that we can use it for our power system. So we want to be sure to shift right click on the ends of the pipes, and we're slowly filling up our tank. We already have 7 buckets of lava. We'll use that lava to put in our magmators, magmator, magmator, magmarito, magnanimous, magnificent lava production things from Powah. So while this setup is making lava for us, we're going to go make some improvements to our storage system that will make crafting everything else a lot easier. And to do that, we're going to use XNet. So I've made an XNet controller, some connectors, some cables, and a generator just to give us a little bit of a jump start. So what we currently have right now is a storage scanner that is looking at all of the containers that are around it in a 5-block radius. What we want to do is connect the storage scanner and many of these blocks and the drawer controller that represents all of our stored items from our item processing so that we can access all of these items as well as the things in our barrel at the same time from the crafting grid. And XNet is a great way to set that up. So I have already cut holes in our decking and made us a little bit of scaffolding so we can set this up. So if we come down here, this should be the storage controller for our drawer setup. And what we want to do is take a connector and put it on there, and then bring some cables down and run them all the way back over to where our storage system is. And that should be a hole I cut for, yes, our storage system. I should probably use scaffolding, but you know, sometimes it's just easier to hop up on a block. So I'm just going to leave the cable there and head back topside. I think that's the only thing we need to go a long way to access. We also want to connect the actual storage scanner to XNet, so I'm going to put a connector on the back of it, and then any barrel I also want as part of the system also needs a connector on the back. Eventually we'll exchange these barrels for larger storage components like modular storages themselves, but for right now I just want to be able to access the new resources that we have over there on the other side of the base. Now, the last thing I want to make sure we do is hook up the controller to the system as well. So we need to replace the cable behind it with an actual connector so that it's part of the system. I don't think I necessarily want the seeds as part of the system. They're just kind of random. So I'm going to turn off the south-facing connection for that connector. So to summarize, every container or storage system you want associated with an XNet storage system, you need to put a connector on. Everything else can just be a cable, and you have to have a controller to do anything. The controller also needs some power. So I'm actually going to just throw down another one of our little generators here. For the moment, yes, when we get our power upgraded, we will run power over here using XNet. But for now, let's just get the system started. So we're powering up, and you can see every single block that we've connected to this now shows up on this interface. This is the controller. This is the scanner. We need to do two things. One, we need to change the scanner setting to be XNet by sliding the button all the way to the left. Make sure we click it, and there's nothing set up yet, so it's going to be blank. Now we move to the controller, and we need to set a channel to be a storage channel, just like this, and say create. And we'll actually name it storage. And then every item we want to be included, we will need to tell it this is a piece of this storage network. So the very first thing is our storage controller, which connects us to all of our other loot. And we want to say for this one, we create, and it is an inventory, and it should be a blacklist mode so that we can access anything in there as long as we don't have it listed here. Let's say if we didn't want eggs to go through, we could put eggs here and it'd be part of the blacklist. No eggs ever. But I like eggs, so we're going to let eggs through. Next up is the storage scanner. That is absolutely part of the system. We need to create, but it's not an inventory. It's actually the storage system. So this is the only block in this column we're going to set to be storage. That tells XNet that that's the block that's controlling the storage system we're setting up. We also want all of these barrels that we have items in to be part of the system. So for every single one of these, we'll say create, it is an inventory, and we'll make sure we click blacklist so that we're not limiting what we can put in and out of the system. Create empty blacklist, create empty blacklist, create empty blacklist. There are a lot of barrels we will probably replace with other storage options in the future. But for now, this is a great way to let us craft from multiple resource locations across the base. Okay, the last item is the controller itself. This does not need to be part of the storage system, so we're going to leave it blank. Now, when we go to the storage scanner and right-click and click the button one more time, we've set it all the way to the left, which is an XNet system. Now we can see all of the items in our system. Now what I'm going to do is prioritize these because I actually want the storage controller for our ores and things to be the top priority in terms of putting items back in the system. So we're going to make sure that it's gone all the way to the top, so that I can throw metals at anything that I know is in those drawers. Like if I take out some aluminum, I can shift click and put the aluminum back, and I know it's going to go in the storage drawer first before it gets randomly stuck in a barrel. And then I can take a look at these barrels and say, okay, which ones do I want to be a higher priority than others. So for example, I might move the wood up to the very top, and then that way I know I can throw metals and wood in the storage system and it'll go to the right place. For now, we're gonna leave everything else just kind of where it is, and I'll mostly return items to our storage manually by opening the barrels, just because that'll keep me from going crazy with all the chaos in the storage right now. Our primary reason for making this upgrade is just to make crafting for this next part a lot easier on us. So I think we're done with the XNet for the moment. Okay, now that we've improved our storage system by giving us access to all these goodies when we're crafting, let's go ahead and craft up some of the magmators, magmators, magmasauruses, magmadoodles, magnanimous, magnificent, magma things of power. Yes, let's make some of those. We'll start with the starter version. And one of the first items we need to make anything in the Powah mod is called dielectric paste. And I think because we're getting kind of endless blaze powder from our farms, we're going to go with the blaze powder recipe and the coal, since we're kind of rolling in coal right now. And I'm going to make many stacks of this because I know this mod requires a metric ton. In fact, it requires so much. This might be a really good candidate for something to go in the storage drawers with everything else. So there we go. We've put 600 of those in there. Perfect. Eat my baked potato. You know, we really need to talk about improving our food. I'm kind of tired of potatoes. Okay, that's the first crafting done. Now we need to take some of that dielectric paste and make a metric ton of these basic capacitors. So we'll do that. Let's make a stack or two. Then the next thing we need are these dielectric rods. And so they are iron bars with the dielectric paste. So let's make a few stacks of iron bars, which would also lend themselves to storage. And now we can make some dielectric rods. We need one of these for every little piece in here. So let's make 4 stacks. Should get us pretty far. There we go. So now we have 4 stacks of these little rods. We're probably going to need some that go the other way, and the easiest way to do that is just throw them in a crafting grid. So I'm going to make 1 stack go up and down, and the other 3 stacks can be side to side. And now we can make our starter magmators. So we're going to need a bunch of buckets and a bunch of these dielectric casings. Okay, in order to make our magmators, we need some basic capacitors in the tiny size, and that is just taking a basic capacitor and putting it in a crafting grid. So let's make a stack of the little ones. I think that's plenty. And let's see if we can make 8 of our starting magmators. Okay, there we go. Now let's see if we can turn them into basic versions of themselves. What am I missing? I still need 8 more of those little jobberdoos. And now we have 8, yes, basic magmators. And along with some fluid pipes, let's see if we can go set these up and hook them up to our lava supply. And we're just going to stretch this out so we can see it for now. So I'm hoping we can just set these little boogers right next to each other. So we have 8 of them. They all need some lava. Is that going to work? Yes. And they are all producing 80 RF a tick. Excellent. Now what we need to do is potentially make another energy cube to hold our power. You can see this one slowly ticking down over time. That's because our automation is a little bit more than it can keep up with. So let's make another advanced energy cube from Mechanism to store even more power. Okay, so I think we can get all the way to elite. Let's start with the basic, which means we need a steel casing. Oh, do I have any more steel ingots? No. Coal infused enriched iron. And enriched iron is coal infused iron. Okay, so let's make a couple stacks of steel, actually. And let's use our charcoal because I don't think it matters which one you do. So making steel in Mechanism, we're going to add charcoal as the infusing item. And we're going to chuck our iron in here to be infused with charcoal. And then we're going to add charcoal to this side as well. So I'm going to dump out that redstone and add charcoal. And as the enriched iron comes out of here, I'm going to stick it over in the metallurgic infuser to be converted into steel. So this might take a minute. I'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. The good news is I made the iron, no problem. The bad news is I wasn't recording when I made this stupid energy cube. So let me just point out some of the key pieces of the recipe. The basic energy cube needed the steel casing for the middle of it, but it also needs energy tablets, which use redstone and gold, but also something called infused alloy. We did this a few episodes ago, but basically you take a metallurgic infuser, you stick redstone in the infusion spot, and you're infusing that into the iron, and what you end up with is infused alloy. For the elite energy cube, we have something that's made with a similar process. That's the reinforced alloy. Only in this case, you take diamond dust and infuse it onto the infused alloy, and what you end up is reinforced alloy. And so we did all that along with a few more energy tablets to get finally to our magnificent elite energy cube. So let's go hook this up to our lava power and see if we can improve our power situation. Also, hey Bob, we'll be right with you. So I'm going to set down our energy cube right here next to our lava power production, and I'm just going to run a bunch of power cables along the back right into the energy cube. Boop. And then we'll take our pipe and shift right click on the back of all of these so that we are pulling power out of the magmators and into the energy cube. And if we check, you can see that our energy is indeed going up at a rather lovely rate. So that's great, but what I want to do is use this new power setup to power all the machines over here behind us. So let's disconnect this power and instead run a power cable down here. And over to our energy cube. Now we want to make sure that the energy cube is set to the top being an output, and shift right click on that block to make sure that the cable is actually pulling power out of the system. And let's see if we're at net positive. Please go up. Yes, we're still going up. Yay! So that means that unlike our windmill, we have plenty of energy now to power all of our automation machines, which is great. And yes, I know this is a complete mess to the eye right now, and we will be cleaning this up by hiding most of these pipes under the floor. But I wanted to be sure you understood visually how everything was connected first. I find it difficult sometimes to understand how a system works if things are a little too close together or compact. I appreciate the beauty of a compact system, but it doesn't really lend itself to a clear understanding of what's actually going on. So for today, I think with our power improvements and our storage upgrades, we've accomplished a lot in terms of quality of life improvements for us around the base. And that is also all I have time for today. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a like. It helps me out, and I really appreciate it. In the meantime, remember, you are all the shiny stuff that awesome is made of. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.